Carolyn, thank you. It's such a great honor for me to be with you and to be in the room with you all. I really want to start by thanking you, Caroline, for making this conversation possible. Ahmed, walal salam alaikum.
Alaikum
When
salam.
Caroline invited me to when Caroline invited me to be a featured guest for the program, Caroline said you can choose any writer you would like to have a conversation with. And I thought about it and I decided that it would have to be Ahmed you, because the fact that you are also a Somali educator and a writer. And because that in the midst of migration, displacement, rich history, oral language, that yet we are searching enough words to describe and capture all of that. And also because I've been interviewing Somali elderly grandmothers, Somali older grandmothers, the past year and a half, and collecting lullabies and songs that they sang for their children. And I really became more aware of the uh, importance of language or the necessity of language, um, especially language that you know the best, the language of your own upbringing and childhood, as the foundation to who we are, as the foundation to culture, identity, and how we feel about ourselves. So I'm glad we're in this conversation together. And I think it's the kind of an initiation of a conversation, a continuous conversation about writing and language. So thank you for agreeing to be in the conversation with me.
Thank you, Marian, for the beautiful words, and thanks for inviting me as well as Caroline. We'll take it from there. I think there is a lot to say, and there is a lot that you have to offer. Particularly, I am salivating to hear a few words from the lullabies again. So whether you take it in English or what you actually value it out the most, just go for it. And we would like to hear your voice too. So, yeah.
Well, if I go for it, it might go on for a long time. I collected 61 lullabies representative from the different regions of Somalia. So the Ethiopian region of Somalia, the southern region of Somalia colonized by Italian, the northern side, which was also a colony of the British, and the the region nearest to Kenya. And even though I've known lullabies and I've always loved literature of all kinds, I was surprised by the variations of these songs. And so I chose one that I can maybe, I won't sing perhaps, but maybe when I read, you will also identify with. So all of the lullabies begin with hobe, 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 ya. Hobe, 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 ya. And then this grandmother, I will read it in Somali because I believe there are Somali speaking audience perhaps in the room. So this one speaks about complementing a child's lineage. And the mother will say, hobe, 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 haddaan heestaada qaado, haddaan qaadoo qandaciyo, haddaan qalqallo u diido, haddaan qoladiina sheego, habeenkaa igu dumaya, haleelaa iga gudaysa, halaa iga gaagaxaya, hurdaa iga baaqanaysa, intuu xumi way xanaaqi, kasyari kabahay ka roori, dhow hantii way dhaqaaqi, ishooda iyo cawrigooda, caloosha kakuunadooda, dhunkaal baan kaaga dayray. So Ahmed, do you want to try maybe before I read it in English? Do you remember a favorite song, a lullaby that you remember from your child?
You putting me on the spot. I don't actually. I'm not able to actually recite it from the top of my head, but the only one that I got stuck with and gravitated towards was just that it's a little bit. There are a few words that are a bit, you say, might not be sensitive. But the one that I actually always remember is when they say "Hoya la mele," "Hoya la mele," Kelchirelia moi, get sehata moi, get kiabastere, koala moi. So the words are actually bit tinkling, but at the same time, what I liked is the melody and how it is just so soothing that possibly a child that who is hearing it, not exactly digesting the meaning, but it is just the sound and the mother is, what the mother is saying. But before I go there, before I actually go on, I would like to ask you about what precipitated, what actually, how did you all of a sudden develop the interest? Because right now you live in the United States, your kids actually don't speak Somali, you're far away from the land. I mean, why do you go back?
So that's a big question, and I will answer that. I will read because the lullaby is going to be side by side in order to make it accessible to Somali children, but also all kinds of readers. So this song, Hadan Hestada Qado, this is the way I have was able to capture that in English. So it's hobe, 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 yeah. If I sing your song, if I sing about my love for you, if I make the melody of the song sound beautiful, if I talk about your strong and great tribe, I will take all night to tell their story. My favorite goat, Halela, will leave the shed. My camels might go hungry. I would stay awake all night. If I talk about the goodness of your ancestors, some people will be jealous if they hear how great you are. Some foolish people will just walk away. Some might cast their evil eye upon you, God forbid. They may not believe how special you are. You are made from the finest quality. Only God can create such quality. My prayers will protect you and keep you safe. So you're asking me what was the reason or what made you take on this big project? So as a couple of things, one of them is the bulk of my work has been in early literacy, and I have come to know that Somali children are losing the home language very rapidly. And as you know, and as you will agree, in the streets of Minneapolis and other places, you will see Somali children speaking to their parents in English, and Somali parents who do not speak English trying to speak that language on a survival mode. So children who are not speaking the English are speaking, and the mothers who are not, children who are not speaking Somali, and parents who are not speaking enough English. So that's a sight to keep in mind. And I felt we have a responsibility to capture this rich oral history that we have. I would say, I think another reason is that, as I mentioned earlier, I've always loved literature. I remember being a third grader and reciting poetry, and not having enough material to read and memorizing all the songs and all the stories. And then the trajectory of my career as a writer really, from going to college studying English literature, enjoying books, and the library becoming how can I say, a third space for me for many, many years. I thought I should take on that. And an important reason is the fact that I am kind of that bridging generation where I remember I was old enough to have been raised in Somalia, but young enough to gain fluency in the English language. So I have that full access to both languages. And I thought, with my background in literacy, with my passion in books and stories and reading, I thought, I mean, this is appropriate. This is the project that I can successfully take on. So I think those are the main things, Ahmed.
So when you heard the sound of Somali poetry, particularly where you in it, I mean, where you are working on right now or recently worked on, and when you juxtapose or when you just try to compare to the language that you mostly use here, English, what difficulties do you face, or what do you enjoy the most? Where do they overlap?
You know, that's a big question. I think one of the most difficult experiences I've had was, how do you maintain the integrity of the Somali oral tradition and capture that and put it in a language that doesn't hold the same deep connection in my heart. It's a language that's new to me. English is not. In fact, I studied Somalis was our first language, and you study Arabic as a second language in all of the different grades in Somalia. You have to study Arabic, and then English came to me as a third language in my brain, in my consciousness. So even though as you and I both have been out of the country most of our lives, but yet being able to transfer that language with those incredible imagery and richness to English, I felt there was not enough. It was difficult to manage that. So I moved away from translation. I think translation is never a good thing to do with taking one language, one poem from one language and transferring it to another language. What I have done is to look at the poem Lullaby and really, in a way, rewrite it while still maintaining its integrity and having it side by side, and spending a lot of time doing that back and forth until I was satisfied with it. And then we have an advisory group who have also been instrumental to evaluate my writing and give input and so forth, so on and so forth.
So when you switching one language to the other, what are the emotions? Do you feel that one somehow or the other, you are actually, let me rephrase that, you are emotional, or you actually approach or your weaker side of you, or the sensitive part of you, when you are speaking in English or when you are speaking in Somali? Or when you write, meaning writing?
English. Yeah. So I go to English poetry all the time. Depends on the season and where I am, but I love reading English poetry. And you know, I have been in contact with so many different types of English poets from the 1700 to date. So I enjoy, but in separate compartments in my mind, because I love the Somali literature when I'm really in most need of home. And I think you feel that. When I'm feeling that nostalgia, you know, I listen to songs and I read poems. So in terms of emotions, I think the Somali is absolutely the one, as I work on these oral traditions. But once it's written in English, I have an appreciation, an excitement that it's on the page. It's not in the oral format. It's on the page and it's accessible. You know, Ahmed, I want to ask you the same question. So you write in English, and when I read your first book, which felt like an introduction to the Somali, about the Somali community to Minnesota, I think it was published by Minnesota Historical Society. At that time, I thought it was such a timely thing to say, here is who we are to the Minnesotan community. And you've done such a good job to do that. I thought you've given a context of history and so on and so forth. How were you able to have that collection of information as a Somali in your mind, take that and put it into a creative way as a book? So I guess I'm asking similar question.
Thanks for saying that, but I have to tell you that the credit goes to also friends of mine. I think sometimes it helps greatly that you happen to have friends. So People normally say that they got the inspiration from the. I had none. Okay, so what happened was just that I had the knowing. I mean, some questions were bothering the heck out of me, and as a matter of fact, I still was not ready to address it. I was not ready to take them on. But what happened one day was just that the whole thing came from two friends of mine, or I could say actually three, at least two friends of mine. One, who is actually a businessman. Normally, when I'm talking about him, I say, I know a millionaire. I know a millionaire. He's a friend of mine. that's how close that I am to money. So that friend of mine wrote a piece. Actually, he wrote an article and just said, you know, you don't have that much time. Why don't you just try to proofread this for me? And I was taken back the concept that he was addressing, that he just somehow or other found a factual factual events and content of where he's just saying Somalis just exactly use their nomadic behavior to send pioneers or scouts to certain places. And Minnesota was just exactly one of those places. And I was just exactly saying, nomadic behavior? Wait, what the? I really loved the article. But I wasn't ready to do anything with it. Of course, it was this article. So that was one. And then a friend of mine was approached by Minnesota Historical Society, and just who is a professor of sociology professor at the University of Minnesota, and just said, they said to her that we need somebody to write about Somalis. So she said, guys, I am actually into the middle of a huge project. I'm writing a book, but I'm actually recommending you someone. So first of all, as well, there was no inspiration. The inspiration came from my friends, real friends. So what I did was just that exactly. I didn't have to do much. They found a publisher. The idea was there to some extent. So what I did was just that I had a bit of spice and possibly research and just try somehow or other to do justice with whatever that I knew about Somalia and Somali history. However, though, they also designed the book and actually also just exactly tell you the word count. So it was fine with me. But I answered the question. What we answered the question was just or should I say I, or should I say we? either way, either way, the question that I'm satisfied that I answered was just that Somalis came here just because of the welfare and nothing further from the truth. It was not just because it was just simply there were too many jobs here and no one was feeling it. So the people that who came here first were the people unskilled people that who did not know English. So that's how we arrived here, and that was long, winded way of answering your question. Go.
Well, I'm glad to know that. I like the honesty of responding from a place of necessity. I think that's sometimes how writing comes about. It's when Caroline and we were discussing, and we wanted to say, to kind of define the goal of the conversation, we thought that writing for both of us felt like a responsibility out of necessity. As you're saying, you had to kind of take on this task and get support from other people. And I think that's a reasonable place to take an interest in writing. So now, this wonderful book of yours, The Lion's Binding Oath, when I read this book, I saw something really interesting that I hope that you can tell us about. You can tell me about, rather. So Maya Angelou is mentioned here. And I reread Maya Angelou's work. Maya Angelou has been the most, as a person, her values, her resilience and strength, and her truth. I thought, well, we have something in common, because if you were inspired by Maya Angelou, then she's an inspiration for so many people. How did that happen for you? That connection with Maya Angelou.
The irony of it that I am not sometimes able even to explain. It's just that how much of the book, her book that I read, just inspired me. Meaning, just that the connection to some extent, all the way from East Africa, and someone in the United States that I did not know anything about when I was growing up, had such a grip on me that completely changed my prospect in life and propelled me into a position of just trying to choose to write. So it was just because I had such a thirst for healing and possibly just exactly give up on writing, because I knew that when I came to the United States, I was 20 something years old. So I got into my 20s, I think, didn't know English, never read a book except textbooks that were collected at the end of the school year. Never read a whole book. Actually, I read 2 books in Somalia, and each one of them was missing the third half of the book. At the end of the third half of the book, the most important thing. So I have never actually completed a book. One friend of mine, actually a relative of mine, just one day in New York, just gave me a dozen of books. I just said, listen, you have too much time into your hands. Why don't you do some reading? And I wasn't able to say, I have never read a book. I don't want to do that. So I took the books, I put right in front of me. So every time that I wake up in the morning, they were there. And I actually, they humiliate the heck out of me. And I am so scared to death of picking a book from here because I have no idea what to do with it. Finally, just because they were threatening me, the books were threatening me, I just, in total serendipity, just picked one. That book happened to be I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. It took me 2 weeks to finish the book because every other word I have to look at the dictionary, but I do not know how it happened. But possibly I digest 90% of what the book was addressing. So I still remember the first question that came to mind, that if she had such an obstacle, just an obstacle on her way actually to, if she had such a life, what am I, what, I mean, what, who am I to complain about my circumstances? Because I was brought up to be a lion, meaning somebody with a pride. No one denigrated me. I left Somalia for my own choice, even though I don't think that we could say that it was. I could say that it was my own choice then. So the book, every person of an African American or writer or has any relations to literary awareness, I went after it. So the books that I got to were just Richard Wright's, James Baldwin, Malcolm X. I mean, and other thousands of civil rights movements. And also, I get into the white Americans that who wrote about those issues, books like uh, uh, To Kill a Mockingbird, Black Like Me, any book, Uncle Tom's Cabin, sort of those things. So this actually put me into a position where I think, outlook of life just sits somewhere in the middle of racial issues. I don't know if I'm making sense at all, but
You are. Yeah. You know, This is so interesting to me. Early on, you were saying when you were writing the book about the Somali people that some people thought maybe they're coming here, these refugees, for social assistance and things like that. Or that conversation might still be, those comments might still happen. But I would say one of the tragedy of migration is that people do not know who you are. You come with an entire loss of who you were, how you were known, your history, the like you're saying, the integrity and the depth of a human being comes into a new place and they're just this person that no one knows about it. No one knows about who they are. And sometimes what happens is inventions are made to help the person who's seeing this new wave of immigrants who are settling in a new place. So it's interesting to me that somehow it seems you identified with the African American people in this society who, as I was telling you the other day when Carol and I met, I didn't know anything about racism. I didn't know anything about the whole history of race in this country and how deeply seated it is in the consciousness of people, the Americans. And so it's interesting when you came to New York, that was some awakening that you had earlier. How did that happen?
Well, it was a yeah, that itself was just fortuitous. I mean, it was just I just happened to be there. I actually came to St. Louis, Missouri, and then was not able to get a job, or and then there were people, there were relatives that I knew from New York who were at the time residing in Harlem. And boy, oh boy, am I glad that actually that I've been there. And as a matter of fact, if there is anyone of an African descent that was coming to the United States, if they were to ask me where do they go, should go to school, I would send them to Campbell in Harlem for 6 months at least. So that place was just because it's the same, you could find the same. First of all, the history, the literary, historical, uh, the historical. I mean, there is a history that there is a rich history uh, of particularly people that were aware or anything um, or had anything to do with literature, were originated mostly from Harlem Renaissance, the music, the writers, the advocate, all those were actually in that area. So whenever you take a walk, someone is just going to tell you, so and so, oh, so and so used to live here, or so and so had so and so had was killed here, or well, not. I mean, terrible things happen. So anyway, I mean, they will tell you the places that people walk, the places that people had conversation, the places that people had. They just, it is it is full of historical landscape. That's what I'm just trying to say.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. James
Yes.
Baldwin, I think, I know he lived in New York. I think he lived in Harlem.
Oh, he lived in Harlem. Malcolm X lived in Harlem. Sora Neal lived in Harlem. What was Ralph Allison used to live in Harlem. Lindsay used to live in Harlem. So, I mean, another tons and tons of them. Yes.
Wow, that's wonderful. So let's talk about being a Somali writer. So
Uh,
we are invested and we're in the middle of so many changes that we have so many roles that do you find that being a Somali, being a Muslim person, being an immigrant, a refugee for many of our community here, do you find there's a space with considering the responsibilities we tackle every day and the lives that we live every day and all of the other messages and demands in our mind from the societies that surround us? Do you feel comfortable sometimes, or are you able to call yourself, claim that space of being a writer? Because that's something I struggle with. It's easy for me to say I'm a teacher. I work with teachers. It's easy for me to say I work on content development. But being a writer, even though I have been keeping a journal for as long as I remember, I've been writing. I started publishing, writing a monthly feature when I was 19 for this small paper called The African Letter. But yet it's been challenged to claim that or to state that you are a writer. Do you consider yourself, are you comfortable to say I'm a writer in the backdrop of all of the other issues?
That's wow. That's 1,000 words worth of a question. No, actually, I mean, to some extent, when I am in a creative mood, and then somehow or the other that I know that I wrote something and that I am done with it, and then I realize that it is actually an entity in itself. There is a story that I can talk about, and there is a family here that you can touch, that you can see, that you can feel, that the message is delivered. When I see that, I say, oh God, man. Okay. Yes, I am a writer. When I just walked away from that, and for example, somebody else is just exactly saying it, I just say to myself, are they talking about me? Okay, or should I call myself a writer? Okay, if I am actually a writer, have I earned the title? Does it belong to me? What do I write about? What content? So, for example, it's not, there's nothing to brag about. I'm not bragging, but I do have a publication almost in every genre. And it is not just because I am I'm genius. No, it is just that because I am a Somali and actually that possibly I had an ADHD that was not diagnosed. So, for example, the only time that I really feel comfortable with this, it is just that when I address a subject matter that I really wanted to tackle. So, for example, in this book, there is a novella that it is addressing the caste system, the people that we are denigrating, who happen to be a part of us. And for the heck of it, we just exactly call them, name them, malign them maliciously for no particular reason. So when I address that topic, that novella, it's just that I at least get something off my chest. There are some other issues also that I just try to address. I try to address our tribalism, the clannish, poisonous petitions or whatever you call it, the cancer. I try exactly to address that to some extent. And when I am into that, I also just say to myself, well, at least I said what I want. But also whether it is just going to reach, whether it is reaching the massed Somali population, well, yeah, that's another issue.
So what you're talking about is the Somali clanism, which is, like you said, it's such a unfortunate situation. So you're speaking about the small clans, big clans mindset, and minority dominant clans. Yeah.
Sure.
That could be happening as we speak in our homes. I think that's most tribal societies, they carry that with themselves. I think tribalism could be compared to classism, and it could be compared to all kinds of isms. There's a Vietnamese noodle place, restaurant that with my family and I have been going for many, many years. And it's on University and Dale. And that neighborhood, if you see it, so you've lived in Harlem, and there's the 142nd and 145th Street, and St. Nicholas. We've also, I think, migration happened for our family at the same time. So in that neighborhood is a very poor. I mean, Harlem at that time was obviously poverty was staggering, but here, University and Dale is impoverished community, and if you go 2 blocks or maybe even 2 miles towards Grand Avenue, you pass Summit, and then the lawns are well manicured and everything is looking nicer and more stability and safety. So I think clanism, would you say it's more is it more toxic to you in your mind, or is it, and it's similar to what the segregations and the things that we see in the society as well?
Well, at times it's actually toxic to me because Somalis are just a unit. Somalis share one language, one religion, even though sometimes even when I'm saying that itself, I'm just exactly saying, who the hell are you lying to? One religion, one race, one language. Not only that, but we have the same cultural behavior, same kind of pride. Any Somali, whether he is actually from Ras Kamponi, Kismania, Hamar, I mean, Ergabo, that's where I am from, all the way to Sela, there is just a nuance of cultural identical differences. The way that you tell the story, maybe they will say a word are different than what you say, but the pride, the personality, and the behavior are almost the same. Yet, what just fascinates me is just that the 2 clans, particularly, that who always shared this boundary or same line of grazing land, intermarried. Like, okay, I'm gonna spell the. Now I'm just going to tell who I am. So I am actually from the north. I am from a particular clan that dominates that part of the world, Isaac. Not only Isaac, I am Habar Chalo and Dulbahante, okay? No, I'm talking to Somalis now. So Habar Chalo, for example, and Dulbahante, 80% maternal, maternally related on either way or either side. You know, 80, I mean, we are intermarried so much that you do not know which family is related to the other. Yet, as far as I can remember, and as far as I can go back, we were fighting. And I know it's not only us. I know when you come to the north, I mean, there is actually Machartian and Hawiye. We can go on and on. In other words, what I'm just trying to say, uncle, paternal uncle, or I mean, maternal uncle, and his nephew are fighting against each other. 2 nephews from the father's side and from the mother's side are killing one another at times. Those are the concepts that I cannot understand. The irony of it, when I get into this contradiction, however, is just that when it comes to poetry, and they bragging about this, it doesn't matter me a bit. So go tell me. I mean, I enjoy the poetry it is exactly so poisonous because the wording, because the tempo, because the bravado of it, because, I mean, it is such a heaven when you listen to those delivery. And the man's mind, even though he's just exactly saying, I'm gonna kill you, I'm just going to member you. My dad did, my ancestors did that to you, and they did that to your clan, and they did that to your father's clan. When they just say, go in all those and losing their mind, I am losing my mind in their words. So go figure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Would you say that America is becoming tribal? I mean, we had that tribalism in our culture, in other cultures for many, many years, divisions and all of that. But do you think this country we live in now, I mean, have you gotten away from that tribal mentality that obviously has pushed so many people out of Somalia?
So I believe actually tribalism, this kind of a tribalism and racism are completely or afflict people and with such I think degree that to some extent that you cannot equate the two. So for example, racism is just that because they don't actually consider you that you are a human being to begin with. Okay, so you are less a human being, and this is the tragedy of the land that we are living now. It is just that you happen to be black or you happen to be a minority, you actually don't matter much. So whoever just has an issue with you, particularly if anybody that has an issue with you, it's just that because you are less a human to them. Where on the other hand, for us, it's actually it's unhealthy competition. You're competing for you are just exactly you know this is your equal to some extent, but what you're saying is just that I have to have the upper hand in order to dominate you. That's what they are just exactly saying. But no one is just saying that you're not a human being or that somehow or the other because I am actually better human being than you are. In God's
That makes a good sense. Yep. Yep. You make good sense.
yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So I think I don't know how much we want to get into politics. I think there's that saying that the personal is political. That
No,
tribalism that
let me interrupt you a second before we forget. Should I read a minute?
yes, I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
That would be it's just a timely disruption. Thank you.
Okay. So then, yeah, you're not gonna get me just exactly to stop singing. So Irsilai anaka alol goai. That's Umar Dule. At a 26 and a half, at a 26 and a half, Mehana was already a revered writer, though many people revile her too. She debated with men about politics, philosophy, and religion with gusto. She wrote she wore her hair loose without the Muslim headscarf. She ran track and field, leaving most men in dust. And worst of all, it was rumored that she dared to write critical articles about the regime in newspapers abroad. Women vilified her publicly, yet admired her privately. Men of all shades, however, stumble over each other to have her attention for a minute. 17 years old Ayanle, who knew that she was not able to ignore it all, was confident that she would not let it shade her judgment on who her real friends were. He, as a close friend of hers, told her that during the summer recess, he was going back to their hometown Ergabo and will make sure that he will bring back all he would learn that she had missed in the last 10 years or so that she had been away. How much of their neighborhood had grown, how many families had moved away, who had died, who had married, who had become rich by scamming others, and whatever else in between. So she called him one day and suddenly asked what was new. After all, she was aware that he did not have that much to share. He was member of Sheikh School High School. He was member of Sheikh School High School Writing Club, and she was on the advisory board. He was a student, and she was the best Somali language and literature teacher. He was 17 years old, and she was 26 and a half. The emphasis is on the half. After meticulously choosing her words, Mehana told him that she was willing to mentor him in what she did not say. Of course, Ayanle had no clue of what she was going to mentor him, yet he was not willing to guess lest it will abate the anticipated delight. He knew that she was married to her poetry and books, and he thought he knew her past too. Yet there was something about her that remained masked, a mystery that he cannot discern. At 2 p.m. on Monday or the following week, I only had already forgotten about their encounter when the classes were let out at the end of the day. Like army of Lucas's teachers and his students, he poured out, descending on the unprotected grass with a vengeance. The distinctive legendary uniform of white shirts and khaki pants worn by the secondary school students culture up heartfelt adorations from all corners of life, for they were the source of pride for Somalis then. It was said that the soil, the trees, and the meadow that they harassed with their trampling, with their tolerant trampling, were tolerant of their inadvertent neglect. And though the abuse would make it easier for the wind to blow off the rich soil on the land between the small town of Sheikh and two schools, the intermediate and the secondary, no one minded it at all. I only watched Mehano catwalk imaginary fashion showway, obvious to her, but invisible to the throng of men. I only watch Mehano catwalk on an imaginary runway, obvious to her, but invisible to the throng of men, flanking her as soon as the bell had rang out, signaling at the end of the day. She walked with a graceful fairness, taking one step at a time, not too fast, not too slow, nor without too much panache. Teachers and students were paying for her attention when suddenly she veered to the left, emerging from the herd of men gallivanting around her. So, as you can
That's
say,
beautiful, Ahmed. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you. So, meaning just that this productive, well-educated, with both, ability to dissect math and poetry. It's just a minority woman, but no one wants to marry her. This child that I am just trying somehow to snare you to say what the hell's going on. I mean, what is she going to do with the child? She's actually teaching. She's asking him to write poetry later on, so that I can spell in case that you somehow or other stumble on the book. But she is such a force that men a magnet to her. But no one wants to marry her.
Because of her clan.
Because, yes, because of what clan that she belongs to. Okay, so
that's powerful. Thank you for sharing. Ahmed, are we writing more about those stories? Because we know that there are that superior inferior issue with Somali clanism, and I think what you're doing is really, really important, and I think it will help people to think about these issues, particularly as we are in the diaspora and we're kind of interacting with those different but similar mindsets, So go ahead. Do you have?
Yeah. Well, no, actually, I wanted to ask you a question. Now that I have been talking, now that you have been grilling me, what I would like to ask you is just that whenever that you are in the mood to write, do you first think about Somali, or do you think about English, or do you think in English? How do you separate the two? Or do they actually converge on you when you are in the mood?
I've been exercising self-restraint because we are both speaking in English. But in the beginning,
okay.
So we have that urge to speak the language you know most, which I journal. I have many journals that I've written over the years. And if you read them, many times the languages are mixed because we're bilingual. It's difficult to separate the two languages. And in unique ways, we have different relationships with different languages. For example, for me, Somali is the language of emotions. And I think it is for many people who are bilingual. The first language that you learn, that's the language of emotions. That's what we term within the literacy community. And I think English has been my formal working language, the language I was educated. I finished high school. I studied in Somali. My Somali has always been rich and enjoyed Somali literature so much. But I've studied in English in the diaspora for so many years. So there's so many textbooks and so many good literature in English. That's not the case in Somali. So my vocabulary and my thinking, a lot of it comes from the English language. We speak English more time than we speak Somali. So I would say that's an interesting question, but I would say I really have such appreciation for both languages, but English has been the most accessible and the one that we use most. In the beginning, something I heard you say was that, as you know, our children are not speaking Somali. And I want to say our children, my husband and I have had our children had rich exposure to language. Because if you don't have enough access to your home language, then the more English you learn, the less you're able to keep the language. So more English, less of the home language, and eventually it disappears. So the project I'm working on, one of the most important thing it will do and should do is to create that rich experience, because firsthand I know with my own family that if you have access to language experiences, it makes a world of difference. Ahmed, can I ask you what's in the works? I heard two books are baking in the oven, as they say. Tell me about those.
Yeah, maybe I actually
Can you
spoke.
excuse me just a second? Excuse me
Sure.
just a minute. You have 5 minutes before we start questions and answers, okay?
Okay, thank you. All right. So you put me on the spot. I think there is a book I have been actually avoiding for quite a while that my publisher just asking me about. And I think that book's just going to be postponed because I haven't heard from her. It was actually scheduled, or it was supposed to be released in 2000. What did I say? 2026? Did I say that? What did I write?
You're coming to. So 2027.
Yeah, well, I haven't heard from her, so I'm not exactly sure what I've changed. But the other one is Somali. So that Somali is actually in my hands because there are no reputable publications. So I think I'm going to take that on and just going to look for some people that are just going to publish. The one that I'm talking about that is in English is actually. Did I say it's more? I see. I'm getting old.
So one Somali, one English.
Yes. So
okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. So thank you, Ahmed. So I asked you several times about politics and things like that. I didn't mean to get into politics. We must, but not now. So I want to read a few hopeful lines from a manuscript that I've been working on back and forth for a long time. Is that okay? Will we have time?
Yes.
No,
so this is called, it's a hopeful.
Oh, Caroline.
Yeah, we need to open it for Q&A now. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. That's
fine. Yes.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Caroline. Ahmed, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Beautiful, wide-ranging conversation. You covered a lot of material in an hour. Really interesting material, including songs and readings. Oh my goodness, thank you so much. And so we would love for anyone in the audience who has a question or a comment to either put it in the chat or raise your hand so that we can address your questions, so that Marian and Ahmed can address your questions.
My name is Muna. Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Muna. I was one of the audience. I just want to add to how much I was enjoying, and I want to thank each one of you guys for organizing and put this together. So I really enjoy it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Muna.
Thanks, Mona. Thanks so much.
Coming. And Mary has her hand up.
Yes, she's mute.
It looks like Mary, did you have your hand up? Yeah, you want to unmute yourself?
Oh, unmute yourself. Oh, yeah, I still mute, Marian. Mary.
Okay, there's someone else has their hand up as well. And if you can unmute, oh, there you go, Mary.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Everyone facilitated all this beautiful topic and it touched many ways. So my question is, how do we encourage our youth to be speaking our tongue languages?
Marian, take that on.
Marian, thank you. So how do we encourage our youth to speak the Somali? We must speak to them in Somali as much as possible, and give them access to the language as much as we can. Language development, that's a full immersion that they will have. They are here, they have the access to the English language. We must give them access to the Somali language as much as possible at home. And also give them experiences in the home language through books, through films, television, news programs, social programs, as much as you can. That's doable, that's possible. And from a young age, because the window of language development for fluency for any language is the first 6 years of life. That doesn't mean you can acquire a new language. You can at any age. and speak so well, but we want to help children from the very beginning, to help them to learn the whole language.
Thank you. Before we go to the next question, I just want to remind everyone to fill out the survey that Kia from the library put in the chat. So I think I see Moscha, is that how you pronounce your name? I see a hand.
Yes. I had a question. Thank you guys so much for the discussion, Marian and Ahmed. I was wondering, you guys both lived in New York, and that was kind of one of your initial exposures to the country. And I was wondering if you had any impressions or stories or anything like that. I love hearing about that early coming to this country.
Oh,
Thank you.
who's speaking? Who is that? Who was that?
Right,
Musa.
I'm right here. Beldaja, Musa?
Oh, Natasha. Hi. Okay. Did you get a question or no, Marian?
No, please go ahead.
Can you say that? Can you repeat the question one more time?
Yes, I know that you guys both lived in New York early in your lives, early in coming to this country. So I was wondering, what were your impressions of that time, kind of culture shock, anything that stands out to you?
Well, I can tell you that, as a matter of fact, I mentioned that I came from, actually, you are young, so hold on a second. So possibly you do not know much about Somalia, but I came from all the way to northern part of Somalia, far away from Mogadishu. So the first time that I came to Mogadishu, I was over the moon. I was the happiest. I think that this place for me was just the most beautiful, city on earth to me at the time. So what is just shocking is, as a matter of fact, when I came to New York did not impress me at all. So I mean, that Somali, that is Somali to you. And of course, what shocked me was just that I was a child who was able to express himself in Somali. I wasn't able to speak in English. And as a matter of fact, that really, I mean, frustrated the heck out of me. And sometimes if I try to speak, Somalis speak long, wounded sentences. And whenever that I thought that I was just threading two English sentences, I think I drove people crazy. So I think people get tired of me because I would not stop. I was just trying to make sense of whatever that I was saying, but I didn't have the words to use. So it was quite frustrating when you know that your brain is not connected to your verbal expression. You cannot say what you want to say, but you have a thought. That was for me difficult.
And Marian, what was your experience like in New York? And then we'll get to Gretchen. She had her hand up as well. Okay.
Yeah. So my father had this idealism of America as the ultimate land of freedom, and a place where you don't have to deal with the military regime that was constantly becoming more and more intolerable. So coming to New York was really a door to that possibility for me. I saw there was a lot of old buildings and a lot of poverty everywhere, but somehow I walked with this idea of coming to America and all that awaits. But as I lived in America more and more, I'm also I have become aware of the social dynamics and the history. But that very beginning was just my father's idealism that here we will be finding freedom and access to education and a safe life.
Interesting. Okay, Gretchen, you had a question?
Yes, thank you. You two approach the whole idea of literacy and Somali language and culture from very different approaches. Marian, you're looking at parents and children and families, and Ahmed, you are writing in English and helping us understand the feelings of Somalis in the diaspora. How can we, who are allies both in the community and in the library and educational world, help promote what you are doing to help people in our communities understand the experience of immigrants new in a country and wanting to maintain culture, but still be part of today's communities.
Marian, you want to take that on?
Sure, I think
Sorry about
that's
that, Marian.
Gretchen, thank you for that question. I would say become a cultural guide, become a host to those who are coming here now. The Somalis are making their homes here now. They're Minnesotans, and be a good neighbor and be a good teacher and host people, and know that there's a lot of cultural insiders, cultural. I would say hidden cultural information that it would take many, many years, decades for people to know about. Something as simple as having access to ECFE, which helps families to gain access to literacy from the beginning, from a child, a baby and up. Most people who access ECFE are educated, middle class families, but give access as much as possible. Tell about how things are here, and as much as possible also learn about the other culture. I think that goes for the Hmong, for the Quran, for the Somalis, for this Hispanic people who are also now, as all of us, are dealing with issues of fear and all kinds of things with immigration.
Thank you.
So, Krashan, I mean, that's actually such a question that sometimes it's hard for me to respond. But at the same time that I know those of you that who are ally are really mean well. So to some extent, what I would say is just that first of all, do not walk away from when you see injustice. They're just taking place right before your eyes. You are able to stand up. For us, even those of us that were citizens that were quote unquote maybe somewhat educated to some extent, we're still apologetic that exactly that we are not maybe American enough, that maybe we do have an accent to some extent, even though this is called United States of America, even though the African Americans and their allies just that fought for us, and we are just enjoying the fruits that they actually sowed 1,000 or 100 years ago. We are still somewhat apologetic whenever racism faces us. And as a matter of fact, it happens quite often. I don't want to get into it, but even just the other day, I was just on I'm admitting actually my bad behavior. I lost a niece, and whenever that I actually lose someone, whenever that I have bad news, or even when I'm excited, I have a bad habit of running to the store and getting a cigarette. Okay, so I had a death, and then I went to the grocery store and actually got a cigarette and unseal it, and I dropped the ceiling unconsciously. And honestly, everybody says this, but honestly, I do feel such a guilt so that I don't throw anything at all to the ground when somehow I'm in my right frame of mind. But it was a massless, weightless, veneer piece of plastic, this much maybe. There, a policeman just jumped out of his car. Just for the heck of it, wanted just to humiliate me and ordered me to pick that up. So I don't want to get into it, but what I'm just trying to say is just that there are such those events sometimes take place, even though the police takes on anyone they want to, but mostly not whites. So yes, as Marian just said, yes, particularly the older generation, the younger generation are just like Americans, and actually they are mostly suspicious of you guys. So approach us though. And if there is a writing, or if there are actually a concert, or if there is anything that you think that you can say something about it, say it. Whatever forum and whatever phase and whatever formula that you use. And just talk to us as well. Don't avoid us. I mean, of course, sometimes we just exactly go into, maybe we're still going, we're still going to not respond in kind, but yes, mostly, I think you will be rewarded too, with friendship, and your well-meaning attitude will be well received.
Thank you.
Thanks for your question, all of you who asked questions. There's time for one or two more if anyone else has a question or a comment.
We will take comments too.
Yeah. In the meantime, if you look in the chat, Kia posted some other events that we are doing together, Hennepin County Library and More Than a Single Story. We have a panel coming up in about 2 weeks on writing books for children, and also 2 workshops. These are all by, excuse me. The workshop, the first one is writing comics for kids. That's an online workshop with Crown Shepherd, who's an African-American author. And the next one is authentic cultural representation, writing diverse stories with integrity. That will be at Plymouth Library and will be led by Kyle Doshi, who is, I believe she's a Korean author. And the panel on the 7th will feature 4 authors, and the moderator will be Sun Young Shin. And it should be a very interesting conversation about how to write books for children. So we hope to see you at some of those. And there are more comments. Yes, don't forget to fill out the evaluation, the survey form that Kia put into the chat. We really need to have we'd love to have your feedback on this conversation in the program so that we can continue to improve what we're doing. Are there any other questions or comments? Or any final comments from Marian and Ahmed? Thank you so much for doing this tonight. So if you have any final comments.
Marian, do you have any comments?
I just want to say thank you so much. This was an important occasion. It was wonderful. Thank you both. Caroline, thank you for making this space. Ahmed, thank you.
Thanks, Marian. Thanks, Caroline, and your crew, Nia, and all the others that are working with you. Thank you. You actually brought us together, Somalis. Marian would not call me until you just exactly ordered her to call me. I'm just kidding. So anyway, you brought us together too. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We've been working together for a few years now.
Sure.
Yeah, Marian and I.
Thanks, Christian.
Ahmed and I have known each other for many years, but through work in passing and small conversations. Yeah, it was wonderful. Thank you both. And thanks to anyone who has been part of the conversation behind the screen. Thank you.
Yes, thanks everybody. Thanks those of you who just exactly came to join us.
And I want to also suggest that you, Nia, do you want to say something about Writer of the Week? Nia, can you hear me?
Yep. Our Writer of the Week initiative will be featuring the writers that we currently are working with. So you'll see a post featuring Miss Marian and Mr. Ahmed. And it's going to give you a chance to get to know the writers better a little bit. And then we can cross-share our platform, share our audiences, and we're asking questions about what inspired you to be a writer. Do you create in any other genres? Who's your biggest inspiration, kind of things like that. So we can kind of get to pick their brains a little bit. So definitely stay tuned. Those will be posted on our Instagram and our Facebook social media pages.
All right, awesome.
Go ahead and put the link in the chat.
Also, the recording of this event will be available also on
On
our
the
website,
official
and
More Than a Single Story website. Yep.
right. Mhm.
Thank you.
And I'll send you both a
Thank
copy
you.
as well. So thank you for coming, everyone. And if Marian and Ahmed could hang out just a couple of minutes
Sure.
before we go away. Yeah, just a personal thank you for doing this. And,
Thank you.
oh, looks like there's, oh yeah, okay, there's more coming in. Yeah. Okay, Kia is saying thank you, and so did Nia, and me as well. When people are still hanging out, so okay. All right. So
Yeah.
mhm.